So this incredible group of small paintings, they're all 12 inches by 9 inches, is really spectacular to me because I see the variation of color palettes that you can use. And I've always been impressed the way that you juxtapose color. And this sort of green, violet nocturne feels very different than this sort of lavender, orange, almost like a sunrise. I'm also really loving what's happening in the foreground here with what looks like crashing water a bit. But tell me about this small group of paintings, and in particular, maybe some of the formal qualities of your work, even maybe with this one that seems to be a little bit different than the rest.
So with this group, you can see that sort of a variety of the textures that I use, or sort of a variety of the techniques. Because sometimes with smaller things, we have, we're sort of cultivating our more experimental side. And so with this one, a couple of things. This, having painting the landscape for decades, the places sort of mesh. But this one comes a little bit from my time in Iceland and seeing the northern lights. And so that's what this sort of greeny teal is. So with this one, this lighter one is this lighter rocks here at the top is again where I paint very fastidiously, with a small brush, and there's that labor piece, but then there's the element of chance. And that is absolutely one of my favorite things about my work, is this sort of the lightest rock where I've put this piece of paper, I've made the rocks, I've put this piece of paper on top, and then I pick it up and I move it. And then, so then when I lift off that paper, I'm either disappointed or I'm excited or, whatever. And it's that dialogue, that push and that pull of chance, and asking myself, what if I try this? What if I do that? And sort of knowing, having worked in the landscape for a long time, when to push it, when to stop, when to erase it. And so that sort of sense of play, I think, comes through in my smaller works. I don't know if it does for everyone, and again, it's just where you feel like you can experiment a little more on a 12-inch painting than a 30-inch one. So there's always something with the landscape, I think, that you can tap into or sort of forget, right? I could focus on something more political, I could focus on something more spiritual and pull back on some of the other things, or I could focus on a texture and pull back on some of the naturalistic color. And so that's why I've stayed with landscape. That's why landscape excites me still to this day, is just figuring out not only the subject, but the color and the story that I want to convey to a viewer.
Yeah, that's really important. Thank you.